Welcome back, Defenders. Here on the channel, it's been a while since we've talked about China, which is why this headline is so interesting. China can't abide a Russian loss in Ukraine. This is according to China's foreign minister, while continuing to deny that Beijing is materially participating in Moscow's full-scale invasion. Wang Yi reportedly admits to a top EU diplomat that a Russian defeat is strategically bad for China. For the last 3.5 years, China's been trying to play both sides, claiming they're neutral. They don't want to participate in sanctions. And yes, they're not directly supplying military aid to Russia, but China is doing a very bad job of stopping their private companies from partnering with Russia's defense industry to supply critical components, especially for drones. So this military alliance, this isn't what it was supposed to be. This isn't what Putin thought he was getting from the Chinese 3.5 years ago. This is an analysis from the Financial Times saying that the China-Russia axis is not based on shared values. It's a marriage of convenience, powered by war, resentment, and trade. Europe calls it the biggest geopolitical threat today, the current Dragon-Bear alliance. So here are some interesting statistics about their relationship. Trade between China and Russia is up 30% from the start of the full-scale invasion. Putin calls the West hypocritical and colonial. Xi says the United States is encircling and suppressing China. Both frame their rise as historic revenge for imperial humiliation. Both reject the US-led rules-based international order. Both demand a new multipolar world. Both appeal to post-colonial audiences in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. But they have no shared values. They have no shared ideology. Xi is a dictator, whatever you want to call him, and so is Putin. And the only thing they care about is advancing their own interests. So this is an interesting thread from Mikhail Khodorkovsky, I'll link it down below, in which there was a leaked FSB memo revealing what the Russians actually think about the Chinese. Putin and Xi proclaimed a limitless partnership, but this leaked memo reveals the truth. Russian intelligence calls China the enemy and warns of Beijing's espionage, military theft, and territorial ambitions in Siberia. The alliance is a trap, and even Putin knows it. The FSB believes China is trying to recruit disaffected Russian scientists and officials, steal military secrets, especially from the Ukrainian front, and lay the groundwork for future territorial claims in the Far East. All while smiling and publicly saying that Russia is their partner. Behind the fanfare of geopolitical unity, Putin has walked the country into a trap. The same regime that loves to shout about sovereignty has reduced Russia to a dependent supplier of raw materials to a more powerful nation. Chinese agents are targeting Russian military know-how, drones, aviation systems, even long discontinued Soviet projects. Some of this is for tech transfer, but some may be laying the groundwork for China's own domestic military-industrial complex. What do you need the Russians to make anything if the Chinese can make it better? Even Russian territory appears to be on the menu. Chinese maps have begun to use the old place names for parts of Siberia. FSB officers are tasked with tracking revanchist narratives amongst Chinese academics and warning Russia's involvement in joint research. So this alliance between China and Russia, it's not even, because the economy of China and the population of China is 10 times larger than Russia. What does Russia bring to the table? And it was supposed to be their military know-how, their military experience. China has not fired a shot in a war in over half a century. So 3.5 years ago, Putin sold this war to Xi, saying, I'm going to go into Ukraine, I'm going to show you how it's done. I'm going to take this entire country in 2 weeks, and then I can help you take Taiwan. But the Russians have fallen flat on their face. they continue to embarrass themselves in front of the Chinese. So China is preparing an invasion of Taiwan. They're building landing ships. You don't build hundreds of landing ships unless you plan on storming an island. But once China takes Taiwan, if they successfully do, yes, they're going to start talking about historical territory that used to belong to their empire, specifically Outer Manchuria. But if the Russians continue this war, if the war between Ukraine and Russia is still going 2, 3, 4 years from now, all of Russia's Far East is vulnerable. If the Chinese ground forces just want to go north, they can take all of Russia's natural resources from themselves. The Chinese can just tell the Russians, everything east of the Urals belongs to us. We have ethnic and native Chinese speakers in this territory. They're being oppressed. We've got to go in there to protect them. Maybe there are secret biolabs or whatever. You can make up any propaganda you want. But yes, long-term, China is a threat to Russian territory. And Russia knows this, but they're bogged down. They've chosen a path, and Putin probably isn't going to change his mind. The Russian state isn't going to address the real threat of China 10, 15 years from now until Putin is dead. This is an interesting headline. Russia damages Chinese consulate in Odessa as Chinese drone parts were found in these drones. So this is a component found in one of these Russian drones, and it has the company stamped on it. This is the Suho Ecod Precision Manufacturing Company. We have the name of the Chinese company providing components to Russian military drones. And it even has a date stamp on it, June 20th. So this component was manufactured in China less than 2 weeks ago, shipped to Russia, assembled in Russia's Shahid drone factories, sent to the front lines and used against Ukraine, all in less than 2 weeks. That is shocking, but this is modern warfare. China makes a profit, and Russia thinks they're accomplishing something. I don't know. Hours after Trump-Putin phone call, Russia attacks Kyiv with a record 550 missiles and drones. This is a new thing I'm going to be saying as Russia tries to increase their drone production. The previous record, I think, was like 537, but on July 4th, right after talking to Trump on the phone call, Putin launched the newest, largest missile and drone attack ever against Ukraine. And you might be able to see what their target was from this map. This was heavily leaning towards attacking the capital city of Kyiv, trying to send a message. What is that message? And it can only be, for me, our ground forces suck, we can't advance, so we're just going to terrorize the capital city. Here are thoughts from Yulia. She is the first Deputy Prime Minister of Ukraine. What Kyiv endured last night cannot be called anything but a deliberate act of terror. A sustained 7-hour coordinated attack. Over 550 drones and ballistic missiles launched onto the people of Kyiv. Families running into metro stations, basements, underground parking garages. Mass destruction in the heart of our capital. There must be consequences. Not eventually, but now. Strengthened sanctions, immediate delivery of air defense systems, a shift from caution to clarity. The Kremlin is watching the world's reaction. So are others. For a report on the ground in the capital city of Kyiv, this is friend of the channel, Caolan Robertson.
So that is not a cloud, it's smoke. It's smoke because the capital of Ukraine here in Kyiv is burning because Russia put 12 ballistic missiles and 4 cruise missiles into the city, and there's now 40 fires, and it looks apocalyptic. But something is happening, and that's there are street cleaners waking up and putting away trash. There are people getting out of the metro, and it's 5:30 a.m., but there's already coffee shops opening back up. And the smoke is going to clear, and it's actually a beautiful blue sky day here in Ukraine, and people are going to get back on with their lives because that's what Ukrainians do. Russia are doing this because Putin isn't getting what he wants. He's not getting the land he wants to steal on the front line, not at the rate he wants. And his plan B, like a coward, is to try and terrify the population, to try and get Ukrainians to submit and give up fighting. But it's not going to work. Every single time Russia launches an attack on Ukraine, people here get more resilient. They don't give up. In fact, they celebrate life even more. Yesterday at 5:30, I went for a walk and I saw people playing the piano, looking over at their city, looking over at the Dnipro River, holding hands, giving each other flowers, because that's what Ukraine is. And again, people are going to get back to their normal lives. And you can try and terrify a population as much as you want. But here, it has the opposite effect. Again, this smoke, it's going to clear and it's going to reveal the beautiful, beautiful sunrise over Kyiv.
Putin is waiting for the world's reaction. This was not a coincidence. Right after Putin got off his phone call with Trump, on the 4th of July, an American holiday, Russia launched their largest ever missile and drone attack against the capital city of Kyiv. So what is Trump's reaction? Trump says Putin just wants to keep killing people. You think? That's what I've been screaming for the last 6 months. Maybe he's learning, who knows? Trump says he's very unhappy with Putin's call, hints at new sanctions. Allegedly, this is the week. Senator Lindsey Graham, there's no excuse. If Congress is going to debate and vote on additional sanctions on Russia, it's going to happen this week. We'll see. But Trump is getting a lot of pressure, both from Congress, the media, and even his own supporters who still support Ukraine. This is the New York Post, this is Trump's favorite newspaper, and this is their editorial board. Trump must reverse the dangerous Ukraine aid halt. So what happened, and we have more information now, U.S. Defense Secretary Hegseth unilaterally blocked weapons for Ukraine, even though experts say aid does not affect stockpiles. We thought perhaps this was the decision of Elbridge Colby, he's an undersecretary, but we now have confirmation this was the decision of Pete Hegseth. Why? I don't know, but I guarantee he didn't even talk to Trump. He just did it. The review began after Hegseth issued a memo ordering the Pentagon's Joint Staff to review stockpiles of all munitions. According to 3 officials familiar with the matter, these are people in the Pentagon talking to journalists, the assessment found that some stockpiles of high-precision munitions were at lower levels, but not yet beyond critical minimums. The Joint Staff concluded that providing continued assistance to Ukraine would not drain U.S. supplies below a required threshold needed to ensure military readiness. So Hegseth ordered this review, wanting to cut off military aid to Ukraine. The review didn't give him the information he wanted, and he just went ahead and did it anyways. And this is the 3rd time that Hegseth on his own has stopped shipments of aid to Ukraine. In the 2 previous cases, this was February and May, his actions were reversed days later. So Hegseth, this is the 3rd time he's done this. And Trump, the last 2 times, reversed it. Also, I think Rubio and Waltz and whoever also maybe were part of that decision. And I do think this is going to get reversed because it just doesn't make any sense. I don't think Trump was consulted. And I don't think Trump wants to immediately reverse it. He doesn't want to embarrass or reprimand Hegseth. He really likes Pete Hegseth. But yes, I do think at some point in the next week or 2, Trump is going to reverse this and then not mention it. Not mention Hegseth or Elbridge Colby or this leak memo showing that our stockpiles are not critically low on what was being provided to Ukraine. I also think President Zelensky knows this. Zelensky describes phone call with Trump as the best conversation in all this time. I don't know if he actually believes that or if he's just trying to use Trump's language. But this is what Zelensky said about his phone call with Trump the day after Trump talked to Putin. I had a very important and fruitful conversation with President Trump. I congratulated him and the entire American people on the U.S. Independence Day. We in Ukraine are grateful for all the support provided. It helps us protect lives, safeguard our freedom and independence. We have achieved a lot together with America, and we support all efforts to stop the killings and restore just, lasting, and dignified peace. A noble agreement for peace is needed. Nothing negative. Zelensky's just playing it cool. And we know what's going on here. Perhaps the United States will continue providing help and assistance. Perhaps they won't. I think Zelensky emotionally has already moved on. Zelensky will never stop trying to talk to Trump or positively engaging with Trump. That's his job. But I'm sure Zelensky's entire staff, everyone in Ukraine's military chain of command, they know the United States is not a reliable ally. And they have to do everything and plan everything as if the United States is done forever. Trump was satisfied with the Zelensky call as well, suggests Patriot missiles still possible for Ukraine despite deliveries halt. They're not fighting. Trump is not calling Zelensky a dictator. That's good. But this is the reality. With Russia going all in on drone production, they're making some modifications, they're adapting. They've added jet engines, which I imagine increases the cost, but these new Russian Shahids can go 3 times faster. It doesn't matter though. Ukraine is the first country to stop 400 plus Shahid drones per night using interceptor drones. The old model of shooting down, a $20,000 Iranian Shahid drone with $1 million Patriot missile, you can't do that. The advantage of these drones is that they're cheaper than air defense missiles. This is why Russia doesn't want to use ballistic and cruise missiles. But if Ukraine can build a cheaper interceptor drone to these long-range Shahid drones, well then the economics is on their side. So NATO is studying Ukraine's model but has no working equivalent. Ukraine uses at least 5 types of interceptor drones. Some look like flying wings, others like fins on a missile. The Sting by the Wild Hornets is manually piloted. Most carry no warheads, they just disable with a collision. Ukraine's mobile teams use PKM and Browning 2 machine guns on pickups. These are effective below 300 meters in altitude. Russia has adapted to this by flying their Shahid drones between 400 and 600 meters in the air, outside small arms range, but below radar thresholds. So there's basically this sweet spot. Above that, radar is tracking you the entire time. Below that, guys on the back of pickup trucks with a machine gun can shoot down your drone. Interceptor drones that Ukraine is building, they do have limitations. They're short range, weather sensitive, and can't operate without radar or clear skies. Jets, Patriots, Gepards, and jammers still close most gaps. Machine guns still account for half of all the drones that are being downed by Ukraine. This is a real-time war in which technology is evolving every single hour. And as Russia increases their own drone production, this is the solution. Ukraine has to mass produce a cheaper, short-range interceptor drone. And they're getting pretty good at it. Let me share this video. This is a Ukrainian drone interceptor pilot from the 28th Mechanized Brigade showing his kill count. He has knocked out of the sky 25 Russian UAVs, including the rare Cub-2 Supercam models, Zala, Lancets, and the modified Milenia 2 carrying an anti-tank mine. This is wild, guys. It's just crazy how many different designs and how many different types of drones there are. And Ukraine, this is the solution. This is the solution. Ukraine just has to start mass producing drones that can go into the sky and then collide, at least, or somehow cause a detonation of the drone's payload. This is crazy. That's a crazy video. Let's cover some more headlines. Ukraine's army chief warns of a new Russian offensive in the northeast as he visits the Kharkiv Oblast. We've got a new front. The brilliant Russian military has crossed the border here, and they've gone basically 1 kilometer. So this red on the border, this is Russia's big summer offensive last year, 2024. This red up here in Sumy, this is Russia's big summer offensive this year. And surprise, we've got one little blurb here in Kharkiv. This is not, I think, a good access because there's no infrastructure, there's no serious roads. I mean, this is all woods and swamp and empty fields, but Russia wants to try and make progress to swing down this river and try and encircle Kupiansk. Kupiansk, the Russians controlled this until the Kharkiv counteroffensive in September of 2022. Ukraine has controlled it now for almost 3 years. And for almost 3 years, the Russians attacking from Luhansk have been trying to recapture Kupiansk. By punching in over here, they're trying to, I don't know, maybe get to this supply road to cut off Kupiansk, but it's not going to work. The Russians are incompetent. They're just going to take more losses. And this is who the Russians have fighting on the front lines. This is a brand new Russian recruit. He just showed up at the front. And it's estimated that he's about 70 years old. He can barely walk, holding his rifle and his backpack. So this video is a Russian soldier filming one of his comrades, just making fun of him, knowing that he's going to be dead within a couple days.
Вот, товарищ танцор, цвет нации, элита Красной Армии. Будет, 137-й гвардейский полк ВДВ просто вздрогнет от таких бойцов. Давай, давай, ты уж слишком быстро идешь, не торопись, не торопись.
This 70-year-old Russian man just got to the front. He's not injured. This is his natural physical state for his given age. And the Russian military still signed him up and still sent him to the front. And he's probably dead now. Let's just be real, guys. He's dead. Other headlines: Ukraine strikes Russian facility making components for Shaheeds and Iskander missiles used to bomb schools and hospitals. This was the Kometa antenna plant, and Ukraine struck it with a drone, and it's on fire. Ukraine reportedly conducts one of the most distant sabotage operations targeting Russian military infrastructure near Vladivostok. Russian authorities move quickly to control information on the blast. This is the picture of the blast, and I'm guessing this was partisans. They planted an explosive on a gas pipeline and caused a big explosion. Bomb stockpile destroyed, warplanes damaged as Ukraine strikes another Russian airfield. This is the Boris Aglabisk airfield. It's a key base for Russian fighter jets and bombers, including the Su-34 and Su-35. This is where this airfield is located on the map, and Ukraine hit it with drones. We have the firm data, but not real good satellite images yet, but I'm guessing something's on fire. Something burned at this airfield. Azov electronics plant hit in Russia's Rostov Oblast with a new Ukrainian Shahed-like drone. One of Russia's largest southern plants for aerospace and thermal optics was targeted. And here we go. Ukraine is now fielded on the battlefield their own variation of a Shahed drone. If it works, yeah, you can steal the design and then use it yourself. The difference being Ukraine only goes after valid military targets, and Russia blows up post offices and universities and hospitals. There is a video if you want to see the drone striking its target. I'll link it down below. Ukraine attack on Russian logistics hub blows up Donbass ammo depot sky high. This was near Kardizhik in Donetsk, and there was a pretty big explosion. There's a lot, guys, but I don't think we're going to get good pictures and videos out of Russia. Ordinary Russians know they can't or they shouldn't be posting anything on social media. If they do, they'll be arrested and they'll be severely punished. Transneft vice president dies in apparent fall from a window. This was the vice president of Russia's state-owned oil pipeline monopoly Transneft, and he died after allegedly falling out a window in his upscale Moscow suburb. This doesn't happen. This guy, being the vice president of a state-owned pipeline monopoly, he wouldn't have his job unless Putin wanted him there. And he wouldn't be dead unless Putin, for some reason, wanted him gone. So this is my second favorite Wikipedia page of all time: suspicious Russia-related deaths since 2022. Since the beginning of 2022, numerous Russia-related people, particularly businessmen and officials, have died under what some sources suggest were suspicious circumstances. Incidents include individuals who fell out of windows, killed themselves, or died in unexpected accidents. Here's the list of all of the Russian businessmen or politicians who have died mysteriously in the last 3.5 years. And it's a long list. Do you really think all of these business leaders and politicians would be dying and Putin wouldn't be doing anything to investigate it? Wouldn't be doing anything to figure out why are all these wealthy Russian men and sometimes their families dying, falling out windows, or being poisoned? So sure enough, we get to the 4th of July, 2025. Vice President of the Russian oil pipeline company Transneft was found below a window in front of his house in this Russian suburb. The death was classified by police as a suicide. Billionaires don't commit suicide, guys. Just doesn't happen. That's not the real reason. Russia sells off more foreign currency from wealth fund to bridge the budget gap. Russia is increasing foreign currency sales from the National Wealth Fund to address a growing budget deficit after oil and gas revenues plunge to their lowest level since January of 2023. Should oil prices drop to $50 due to an OPEC Plus output increase, depletion could come even sooner, potentially forcing spending cuts and triggering a recession, according to Russian analysts. So as long as OPEC Plus doesn't increase production, Russia should be fine. OPEC Plus members agreed to larger than expected oil production hike in August. Why is Saudi Arabia doing this? Partly, maybe because of Russia, but it's really about Iran. The United States calls on China to prevent Iran from closing the Straits of Hormuz and disrupting global oil flows. There is intelligence reports saying that Iranian ships are loading up mines. They haven't deployed mines to the Straits of Hormuz yet, but they've loaded up the ships as if they were going to do it. Does that mean Iran is going to close the straits, basically shutting off 20% of global oil energy exports? And they might. They're pretty upset, but the other OPEC nations are producing more now to kind of get ahead of what Iran might do over the next couple months. Ukraine's economy grew by 0.9% in Q1 of 2025. Positive is positive. I'm not going to pretend like Ukraine's economy is doing great. Their country is being bombed every single night. But after the devastation of 2022, Ukraine's economy shrank, I can't remember, it was probably like greater than 30%. So every quarter they can get a little bit of that back. They're moving in the right direction. This is good news. Ukraine's arsenal expands west, Denmark to host Kyiv's first overseas defense plant. Russia is trying to blow up Ukraine's own defense production facilities, so the solution here is to move where Ukraine manufactures their weapons to NATO territory. And I'm sure Ukraine has already asked this. For the last 3.5 years, Ukraine has probably been asking Poland, can we just build our artillery shells on your side of the border? But Denmark is the first country to say yes. Denmark is allowing Ukraine's military to produce weapons for Ukraine's military on the territory of Denmark. This is a new thing. This is important. This is going to greatly frustrate the Russians, so thank you so much to the people of Denmark for being willing to do this. I'm sure at some point Russia is going to scream, this is a valid military target, and Russia can now bomb Denmark. But I don't think they're actually going to do it. Denmark is calling their bluff right now. Ukraine is becoming a naval power. 2 ships pass NATO certification. 2 Ukrainian vessels have officially become interoperable with NATO standards, and Ukraine's Marine Corps is now the largest in Europe. I think Turkey is the one building ships for Ukraine currently, and they're being built to NATO standards, so that someday, when Ukraine joins NATO, all of their systems will be basically operating the same. So this is great. I think Turkey is going to hold on to these ships until the war is over. Final video, there was another POW exchange. Every single time, this makes me happy, guys, knowing that these men are no longer suffering in Russian captivity. They got to come home and they're going to be reunited with their families.
Дякуємо.
Ми вас зачекали, хлопці.
Спілкуємось, давай, Богдан. Коротше, все супер, все добре. Шнира ось. Вам все добре.
Скажи, наша хлопці. Вас любить.
Хотел я сразу звонить, потому что, я и только что звонила. У нас 36 є,
That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.